Hi, this is Duncan Meskel, and today I'm going to talk to you about how I use AverageTest. The AverageTest indicator is an indicator that I developed specifically so that I could find markets that were testing different moving averages. The moving averages that I use the most are the 8-period exponential moving average, or what's known as the T-line, the 20-period moving average, the 50-period moving average, and the 200-period moving average. There are others that other analysts use, like the 34-period exponential moving average or the 100-period moving average, but I don't use those as much. The reason I use these averages is because that's what other analysts use, and so there's a certain amount of effect that goes in with that. So again, I use the 20-period, the 50-period, and the 200-period moving average, and then I also use the 8-period exponential. These two indicators, the moving average 3 lines and moving average exponential, are available to you with Tradestation out of the box. So you should be able to add those and to your chart just like this. The red line is the 8-period moving average, the yellow line is the 20-period, the cyan line is the 50-period moving average, and then we have the 200. The way this indicator works, it's probably best that I show you a picture, is that we're looking for one of three things. We're either looking for on the long side where the low of that bar is near the moving average, which is this line, or the open, which is the body of this candle, and the close would be up here, is near the moving average, or the close is near the moving average. You notice that the low can penetrate the moving average. This is actually a good indication that a test has occurred where prices moved lower intraday and then still either opens or closes near that moving average. This reverse is true for the shorts. If we have a high near the moving average or an open and then the bar closes lower, or if it opens down here and then closes up near this area, that would also be considered a test of the moving average. So where this is really most valuable is in the radar screen or in the scanner. Anyone can look at a chart and identify if it's being tested. That's not really where it comes in handy. It comes in handy because I can look across a number of different symbols and immediately see where it's being tested. So let me explain what these numbers are and how they break down. So we have negative 1.3 on the spider from last Friday, and that was the 16th of January. And the way that you can identify how this is set up is if I right click and then format the average test, I can go into the inputs and see how it's set up. So by default, the threshold, that's how close it has to be within the moving average in order for it to fire. So it's got to be within 0.005%. What I would recommend is that you experiment and see what works best for you, but 0.01 was the initial default, and that was giving me too many signals, so I cut that in half. You can also narrow it down to 0.0025 if you wish, and that won't give you as many signals, but it will also give you a lot more, in my opinion, probably more valid signals as it's testing clearly that average or the moving average area. So what I've got this set the test to show examples. The first, it'll show up to 4 different moving averages. Okay, first off. So the first one is the 8-period, and type 2 is exponential. So the 8-period exponential moving average, or the T-line. The rest are simple moving averages. So the 20-period simple moving average, the 50-period simple moving average, and the 200-period simple moving average. So the way this translates on the radar screen is that if I get a 1, that's going to be from the first moving average. If I get a 2, that'll be from the second moving average. If I get a 3 or a 4, that'll be from these moving averages. So that's how that works. You'll notice up here it's a 1 point, let me cancel that. For the SPY, it's a negative 1.3. So what that means is that 1 is it's testing the exponential moving average. The 1.3 means, if we go back to the example, is that it's the third type of test, which is a close within the moving average space. And if we go back to that chart, that's exactly what this type of test is, now that you can see it. I'll give you another example here. So this is the Select Financial Spider Fund, and we see 4.2. So without even looking at this chart over here, I can tell you that's the 200 period moving average, and it's testing is the second type of test, which would have been a open near the 200 period moving average, and that's exactly the low just violated, so it wasn't a test of the low, otherwise it could have been, but it was the open. And so here this is potentially a good long setup here. So this is what I use it for, is on the scanner, so I don't have to look at a ton of charts to find good setups. And the best part about this is that if you have another strategy or another indicator that you're already using, you can combine this with that indicator, and this is going to help you find even better setups. So that's what I really like about it. Now you'll find that you get a lot of setups here, and let's say you don't want all of the, you just want to know if the 20 period moving average is being tested. That would be a very common question. So how to do that? Well, I'll just set them all to 20. So I'm going to change this to a 20 period, 20 period, 20 period, and they're all simple. Okay. So now I'm only going to see, even though it says 4, I'm only seeing the 20 period moving average. And the reason it does that is the 4 is the last one to signal, so that's why you get that. But so now 4.2, we can see there's an open near the 20 period moving average. So that's how that works, and that's how you can narrow it down if you're just looking for a very specific moving average. This workspace will actually be included on the Tradestation App Store site along with the indicator. And if you want to be able to see how the bands work, I've included another indicator with the average test. This is just so that you can see what the threshold would be, and this threshold is 0.005 for a 20 period moving average. You can see I've set it all across the board. If I turned on the others, I'd see bands around the other moving averages as well, but then that kind of muddies up the screen, so I just did the 20 period moving average for examples here. But see, now we can see that the open was clearly between and it needs to be, it could be equal to, but it needs to be at least equal to or between this upper band and this 20 period moving average, which is the yellow line, for the 20 period moving average test to be considered valid. The moving average test alone by itself does not provide as much value as it does when combined with other indicators, especially when you're looking. Some examples are you're going to look for a trending market, you'll look for a lower high, or maybe look for some candlestick patterns that kind of confirm that test as well to make sure. I believe this would be considered a piercing signal, so that's potentially a good signal, at least maybe up to the 50 period moving average. So that's just an example. If you were a counter trend trader, because the 50 period moving average, we had a death cross up here not too long ago, just in November. So those are some of the ways that I use this indicator, and I'll show you what it looks like on a chart. It's really not all that glamorous. I already installed it, I just need to turn it on. And this is basically a visual representation of these numbers. So, if you didn't want to see, and I'm going to spread this out a little bit, but if you didn't want to see visually, if you didn't know how to spot a moving average test and you just wanted to be able to look, you could just say, okay, right there, there's a test right there, and looking at it, I can say that was a 50 period moving average test. However, it did not move higher. It moved through the 50 period moving average and gapped down, which is a very bearish signal. And then subsequently we had a doji signal, and then looks like an evening star type signal. It's not quite an evening star, but this would have been right here potentially a good signal, and if not this candle, then the very next one for sure. And then you could have used either the 8 period or the T line, the exponential 8 period moving average, or the 20 period moving average as your stop. So that's one of the ways I put it on a chart, is I'll just click down and kind of condense it, because I know that real estate is very, very critical to a chart. But you don't even need it. If you know really what you're looking for, is you're just looking for the tests in your radar screen or your scanner, and then once you find the test, you can just click on it, and if your charts are linked up like they are up here with the symbol, then it'll automatically update your chart. And again, you'll get this workspace, so it's already linked, and you can put whatever symbols you want in there, and then you can identify your tests and set it up however you want it. And it'll have all of the defaults in there, and then you can set it up however you like. So I hope this helps, and I can tell you from first-hand experience that this is a really nice one to have in your arsenal if you don't have it already. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me. Thanks.